Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the southeast part of Scotland. And everybody knows by now, hang on, just straighten my chair. Everybody knows by now that Scotland is the central, well, the center of literally everything, really, of all dimensions and all time streams and all realities and all imagined fantasy lands as well, of course. So, excuse me, the reason why our start was slightly delayed was I was right in the midst of a sneezing fit. It was not very entertaining. So I was just like, well, I need to get this finished before I start. I can't start with a sneezing fit. So, so anyway, it wasn't very long. I think I only did 10, so that's, you know, by my standards, that's pretty poor. But yeah, so I rather suspect I'm not quite finished yet. I rather suspect that there is more to come on the sneezing fit, so I think there will be more. Hopefully I can hold it off until the end of the show, but we will have to wait and see. All right, so let's go see who is here. Billy Morgan, as per usual, is first in the door. Followed by Tony Stringer and Rich Cresswell, Daryl Harrison, Dwayne is here as well, Stephen Wilson is here, Kyle Drzyziak is here, and the W5 family are here as well, and Don Oliver is here, Just Bob is here, Lowens is here as well. The new guitar stand is making you sneeze. Yes, some of you may or may not have noticed, I have a new guitar stand. So now I'm able to have both my basses and my electric guitar at easy reach, which is very, very cool. It's something I've wanted for a while. Now, these stands are not very expensive, but if you recall, I used to have a big dark wood desk on this side of the studio. And there was just no room for anything remotely resembling a guitar stand, a multi-guitar stand like this one. So I just didn't have the space. I didn't have the space at all. But now that that black desk is gone and we've replaced it with this one, this is actually a temporary desk. This is my son's desk. I need to get a new one. I just haven't got to it yet. But I am going to get a new one because this is a little bit broken. It doesn't pull out all the way. So, I need to get a new desk because of that. So, unless I can fix this one. If this is fixable, then it will suffice. It'll do just fine. So yeah, so that's kind of what has given me the space for a guitar stand. And that was basically a decision. I decided I need a guitar stand. Otherwise, my fretted bass and my electric guitar are not so easy to get to. And then it means that if I'm in the midst of doing a session, I'm having to open cases and get things out and plug things in, rather than just being able to grab them off the stand. So that's why the bigger desk went and has gone off to be recycled. And my son got a new desk, so I took his old desk. And it gives me exactly the right space for a guitar stand. It's just taken me a wee while to get one, but I now have one, and it's awesome. And I personally think it looks pretty good in the studio, and it certainly clears some floor space, which was a big thing. Really, for me, was clearing some floor space and also having access to all my guitars. The next purchase that I want to get is a stand for my sax and my wife's flute, and also maybe a stand for my brass instruments as well. And then that can just basically sit at the back here, where you can see at the back here. There's a heater. Well, it blows out warm air, but it also blows out cold air as well if I need it to. So I've got that, and then there's a light that used to spin but doesn't spin any longer. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, that light at the back doesn't spin anymore. But yeah, so instrument stands would have to go next to those. So that's kind of next thing on my radar, basically, so that I've got all of my instruments out and available and easy to get to. Which is basically the theme of tonight's show, is having things at easy access. So whether that's physical instruments in your studio that you play, or whether that's plugins and virtual instruments in Studio One. Organize everything in your studio, including inside Studio One, so that you have everything that you use regularly easy to reach, easy to get to. So in Studio One, one of the ways in which you can do that is by use of the favorites folder. So why don't we take a look at how that works tonight? Now, I think most of you are probably familiar with the favorites folder and how that works. But basically, the thing to do, we go over here. The thing to do is, if I just close that for a minute, what you can do is you can go through all of your plugins and you can favorite them, okay? So let's say, for example, this Saturn 2 here. If you right-click it, you can just choose Favorite. And then when you do that, it basically adds that to the favorites list, and you also get a little star next to it here that shows it's been favorited. So any of these I could add to my favorite. So, for example, I know I use this denoise a fair amount for podcasts. I edit and mix a podcast every week, and so I'm using this all the time. Now, in my particular case, I have already got like a template with this built into it, so it's already instantiated. But if I was not going to do that, then what I could do is just click favorite, and now you see the little star appears. And then if I scroll all the way back up here, there's this little tab here called favorites. So now if I click on that, these are all the ones that I use the most regularly. And there you can see the RX7. I know I'm using RX7. RX7 is ancient. Still kind of works in Studio One 7 though, which is, I didn't think it would, but it does. It works. It's really, really handy little, the RX stuff is really, really handy. Now, I don't have the latest version of RX from iZotope. Although I do have, it's not listed in my favorites, but if I go back out of favorites just for 1 second, you probably saw it very briefly there. I do have Ozone 11 Elements, which is actually surprisingly powerful. Now, I think they are on Ozone 12, I think. I installed this a while ago, to be honest. But as you can see, I've got RX7. And these are all really handy for doing things like taking out some earth hum, declipping, taking out mouth click and that kind of stuff, and then taking out some background noise. And this voice denoiser is amazing. It's incredibly powerful. But this is not an iZotope commercial. So when I've got this open, I've got all of my favorite compressors and EQs, like the FabFilter Pro Q3 and Pro EQ. So you can do this with native Presonus plugins, as well as your favorite third-party ones as well, like I've got Fat Channel there as well. And it just means all of these are easy to get to. I don't have to mess around scrolling through trying to find things, especially as your plugin list grows. So this is really, really handy. Now, obviously, there is the real possibility that the more you favorite things, the more things are going to end up in that favorites list, and that list is just going to grow and grow and grow. So really, this is the little list where I think you should just put all the plugins that you use the most, like on a daily basis. Anything that you use every day on every mix, in every song production, put those in your favorites list, and then they are just there, and they are easy to get to, and they are easy to grab, and you don't have to scroll around trying to find things. And then make sure you have this. Now, by default, it should sort by alphabet. So the Brainworks Opto is at the top because it begins with B, and then the RX7 is down the bottom because it begins with the letter R. So make sure you are very good at your alphabet. And then it's just dead easy to be able to find exactly what you want when you want it. So I hope that this really helps you streamline your workflow, make things easier for you, and just make the process of doing music production, doing editing for podcasts, doing mixing, mastering. Use the favorites list. It will make your life a whole lot easier, and you will be able to easily get hold of regular favorite plugins very, very quickly and easily. So that's the first thing. Track presets is another thing. If you have lots of things that you do regularly, like you have a favorite vocal chain, maybe that has a particular EQ and a particular compressor and particular settings for both of those, save that, basically drag them into a channel, set those how you want, save it as a track preset. It will appear in your track presets list here. And then, like this one here, I've got a Fender Rhodes one that actually adds a phaser and an auto pan. And so when I'm playing Fender Rhodes or I'm recording it, I record it dry here. But then I add this to it, and it gives me my nice stereo panning Fender Rhodes with a little bit of phaser on it as well. So I've got that set exactly how I want it, and I can just drag it straight on, and I get the exact Fender Rhodes sound I am after immediately. So favorites, track presets, make sure you create and use these lists regularly, especially track presets, and as I said, the favorites as well. The next one below this is recent. So basically anything that you have used most recently is going to be listed there. So this is also really handy, but to be honest, it's not the list that I use the most, and it's not the list that I recommend using the most. The one I recommend using is set your effects to sort by vendor, so that you have a folder for each of your vendors. So in this case, I've got FabFilter, and then if I close this folder, you'll see I've got Isotope, and I've got another Isotope folder, and then I've got Klanghelm, and then I've got Plugin Alliance, and then I've got all the Presonus ones. I tend to keep all of these open because I work with these all the time. But like I said, the best thing you can do to speed up how you work is create effects chains, create track presets, and select your regularly used plugins as favorites. Effects chains are very, very cool. I have a few here, like I have a vocal one here, and this basically has a de-esser and a couple of instances of fat channel that provide me with EQ and compression dialed in and set straight away. And then this one is handy. This is like a megaphone kind of sound. And this has a Pro EQ, a compressor, and some red light distortion. I used that. I created that as a track preset because I was using it quite a bit for some sound effects for a podcast that my daughter does. And she needed like that kind of megaphone kind of sound. So I created that, and then whenever she needs it, I can just apply it. It's just dead easy. And then this is my vocal chain, and then there's another version of my my panning Rhodes, which has the pedal board and has X-Trem on it. So I can just drag and drop those straight onto a channel. So just to briefly recap, once again, favorites. This list is your best friend. Have things sorted by vendor so you can get to them very quickly and easily. And track presets, and effects chains. They will make your life recording and mixing and doing music production so much faster, because once you've created a whole bunch of track presets for things that you do a lot, you can just drag and drop those straight onto the channel and you will pretty much have the sound that you want straight away. And you'll maybe have to tweak it a little bit because, as we all know, every piece of audio is unique. It's not going to be the same. And so you can customize accordingly. But you've already got yourself in the ballpark straight away. So those are the 3 things I highly, highly recommend for making your music production and your mixing life a whole lot easier. So I hope that this helps a lot. Let's go back over here. And let's see what we have in the chat. Latest is Ozone 11 Advanced. There you go. Yeah, I don't have that. I just have the Elements, which is free, I believe. Let's see. Oh, Keith is here. Keith from Radio Top Trumpet is here as well. And Russell Harris has just joined us as well. And Cesar from Brazil is here, and he loves the MJUC. Yes, I love that thing too. I use it all the time. Which is why I favorited it, because I use it all the time. And he says he likes to use custom folders. Yeah, you can totally create your own. Custom folders and just put things how you want them. Studio One is very powerful for being quite free and easy to organize things how you might want. Let's see. Ben Adams 777 is here, and I think you're new to my channel, so welcome to you. He says, hello, sir. Can you please explain the correlation between tracks, instruments, and mixer channels? I've noticed when I drop an impact on an instrument track, multiple mix channels appear, which is confusing. Okay, yes, this is an easy question to answer. But I have to start it with giving you some background in Studio One development. So, the first thing I have to tell you is that when Studio One was developed, to start with, way back in 2009, they decided to make a distinction between audio channel tracks and channels and instrument tracks and channels. So, here's how they did that. Other DAWs do this differently. Okay, so I totally get your confusion. In other DAWs, not all of them, but in some other DAWs, you may find that tracks and channels have a one-to-one relationship. Basically, what that means is what is on a track is also on a channel. Not so with Studio One. There is a difference between audio tracks and channels and instrument tracks and channels. Instrument tracks in Studio One literally only contain data. There is no audio on them. Okay? Which is why mute and solo behave a little bit differently with instrument tracks than it does with audio. Because on an audio track, the audio is there in the track and it is also in the channel. The mixer, when it comes to instruments, like Impact, the mixer actually converts the MIDI data into audio. So it then can be played back through the playback engine. But so that's the distinction. Instrument tracks only have data. They have no audio on them at all. Just data. Which is why automation on instrument tracks is done differently than on audio tracks. Because you can't really do volume automation on instrument tracks because there's no audio to do the volume automation with. There's nothing there. It's just data. So it's all a little bit different. So Impact is one of those instruments that is a multi-output instrument. What does this mean? What this means is that though you have one track in your song and you have multiple channels in your mixer. Why is that? It's because it is possible for every pad in Impact to be assigned to its own channel and therefore have its own individual channel in the mixer. So basically you have one track and then all of those split out into multiple outputs that you then see in the mixer. So by default, it has 5 channels to start with, right? And so you can assign each one of those pads to each one of those channels. And what that means is you can treat them individually. So if you want to EQ the snare drum in a particular way, assign the snare drum pad to, let's say, MIDI channel 2. What you'll find is in the mixer on channel 2, when you hit that pad, you'll see that meter peak up and down. What you can then do is you can put an EQ and a compressor on that, and it will only affect the snare drum. It won't affect any other part of the drum set that you're using in Impact. And so it goes on with kick, toms, cymbals, the works. You can assign them all to specific channels and in the mixer, and then they will appear in the mixer, and then you can mix to your heart's content to get the drum sound that you want. So that's why you see that, and you don't see that with Presence, because Presence is not a multiple output instrument. It's just a stereo instrument. Okay? So that's why you only see one channel in the mixer when you drag in Mai Tai, Mojito, or Presence. Okay? Those are stereo instruments. They are not multiple output instruments. There are other third-party multi-output instruments out there, such as the Sine Player, Omnisphere, Contact. Those are probably the big 3. There are others. Rich Cresswell will probably be able to give you a really comprehensive list of multi-output instruments, third-party ones. So that's basically how that works. So you may have one track and multiple outputs that are related to that track. Okay, that is a design feature of Studio One. It's not a bug or anything like that. It's a design feature. That's how multiple output instruments are handled by Studio One. So Ben, I hope that helps. I hope that helps answer that question. It's a really good one. I like it. Good question. So I hope that has cleared up your confusion. So by way of reminder, Billy Morgan hosts one of our PreSonus Studio One meetups, and that will take place immediately after this show. So when we finish here, that will start, and then you will be able to go and continue the Studio One conversation over there if you want to. Let's see, what else do we have? Dave is here from Aurora's Boring Alice. He says, I was trying to do a slice on multiple tracks at once. I tried shift select or control select to highlight all tracks involved. Do I have some unaware setting on? The best way, rather than doing that, is to use your mouth. Mouth? Yes, I do have a lisp, and I have had a lot of speech therapy to not speak with my lisp, but occasionally it does pop out, and that was one of those where it just popped out. Use your mouse, not your mouth. Use your mouse, draw a range around those events, and then those events, whatever you cut, will be cut together. That's, to me, I think that's the quickest way. Keith says Easy Drummer, East West, yep. UVI Workstation, Falcon, yep. Those are all multi-out. Spitfire Audio, Roland V STIs, some of those, most drum machines. Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer. Yes, there are absolutely loads that are all multi-output instruments. So, yes. And my good friend Paparaptor Music is here. Welcome back, my friend. I'm very glad to see you. And John Hathaway is also here. We've got a decent crowd here this evening. We have 23 people. But you know what? I'm going to make a complaint, folks. We got 23 people here, but we've only got 15 likes. Please smack the living crap out of that like button, please. It helps me a lot because it recommends my channel to the YouTube algorithm. And when that happens, occasionally, this channel and this live show has appeared on the YouTube homepage. And when that happens, that gets my channel to well, basically to the entire YouTube audience. And that means somebody might click on that video or click on my channel, and that helps grow this channel massively. So please do that. I would appreciate it. It would help me out a ton. Dave says you can also do split tracks by pitch on a stereo drum mix. Yes, you can. It's not called split tracks. It's called explode pitches to tracks. And when you do that, all the pitches from your impact kit or whatever it is can be exploded to individual tracks, and then you can bounce them, and then you have them as audio tracks instead. Ben says, does that imply that we should not split out our instruments to different tracks for multi-out instruments like impact? No, you can do that if you want. Like I just said, you can absolutely do that. Now the cool thing is, in Studio One, this might be easier for me to show than anything else. So let me go grab a new song. And in this new song, I am going to bring in impact. And we'll go over here, and I will grab probably the best drum set that is here. And that's the Tom Brecklin drums, because it's Tom's drum set. And Tom is a great session drummer who played with people like Chick Corea, Robin Ford, Herbie Hancock. The list of great musicians that he's played with is almost endless. Now, to illustrate what I've been talking about, see how each one of these pads has a number. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 5, 2, 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4. Now, notice how all of these toms are on the same channel. They're all on 4, right? So I could in fact change this to, say, stereo 6. I could change this one to stereo 7. I could change this one to stereo 8. Now notice that what has happened by doing that is we've got some new tracks, channels rather, that have appeared in the mixer. So what this now means is that if I play these toms, okay, now I can reorder these. So let's, come on. Oh, you're not going to let me do it. That's disappointing. I thought I could move these around. Can I not do that? No, that's annoying. Okay. I can actually move whatever is on channel. What is on channel 5? Okay, so I've got. Well, that really should be with snare drum, which is on channel 2. So I'm going to put that on channel 2. That is on 3. That is on 5. 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 Okay, so it looks like the ride cymbal and the crashes are all on 5. Okay, so I could absolutely just reassign all of these to just a totally different thing. Like I could do, I don't know, I could move these to, let's say, 9. Let's put that on 9 as well. Put that on 9. We'll put that on 9. I'll put that on 9 as well. So now I have nothing on 5. So I've got, so I could change this to 5. And what have I got on 6? Nothing on 6. So that can now go on to 6. And then that can now go on to 7. So now those are all on adjacent channels. All right, and you'll see that there should be some panning already built into those toms. So I don't need to do any panning here. But if I wanted to EQ these individually, I can do that. All right. You can only reorder them if each instrument is assigned its own track. Correct. Thank you for reminding me there, Rich. Yes, that's the part that I was forgetting. Not always necessary depending on the intended use for each. Yes. Yes, correct. This is dependent upon whether instrument supports this. Yeah, an Impact does not support reordering. So basically, I just did it just by rejigging the channel assignments in Impact. So now everything should be as I want it. And I've got all my cymbals. These are all now on channel 9. So, you know, if I wanted to just do a high-pass filter or something like that, just to clean up the low end of these cymbals, I can do. Really, these are instruments. These are samples of actual cymbals. They've already been processed. There's literally no need for me to do any production at all. But maybe what I might want to do is actually send my cymbals to a reverb on their own, so that they've got their own little bit of ambience for the cymbals, and then everything else could be dry. And maybe I just want the snare drum to have a little bit of that ambience as well, and everything else to be reasonably dry. I can do all of that with this organization, with this setup. So if I had, for example, a pattern or a beat on here, which I don't at the moment, but let's just say that I had, and I can, actually, I don't want to do that. But let's say I decide that I want to record something. So we'll stick our count on, and we've got the click on. Okay, I'm going to record something. Okay, that will suffice. The ending was a bit crap, but we'll not worry ourselves about that. Now, I can explode this to tracks. I need to remember how I do this. I think I do this on the event level. Parts. There, parts. Explode pitches to tracks. And now you can see we've got different... And that's way too loud. Hang on. We're getting some doubling there. Let's try that again. So now each voice is on its own particular track. All right, so I can just reverse that order just a little bit there. Is set to follow in the console, then you'll be able to reorder them. Oh, okay, that's cool to know. You can do it in Impact, F4, open the inspector, explode pitches to tracks, assign each track its own channel and recolor, move the tracks up and down. And if the track behavior is set to follow in the console, then you'll be able to reorder them. That's cool. Yep. That I seem to recall I made a video on doing that years and years ago. Maybe 10 years ago, I made a video on how you can do that. So this is still something that you can definitely do. So if you want to go check that video out, it is on my channel. Basically, anything you do with the tracks over here will be done to channels over here. But you have to assign the channels using the inspector to do it. Go watch that video. It's really, really cool. And there's also a way to make the track names here appear in the channels. And I show you how to do that there as well. So definitely check that out. And yes, it is the drum part to Aerosmith's Walk This Way. Yeah, it's maybe a little fast. It maybe needs to So Rich has a really important point there, and he says you must use the inspector and change the channel assignment for each track. They should ideally equal the same track to channel number. So 1 is 1 and 2 is 2 and so on. Yeah, absolutely. And my video goes through that as well. The behavior has changed a little bit with Studio One version 7, because with Studio One 7, there's new behavior for multi-out instruments, which is set by default, but you can change that with the inspector here, and just basically uncheck this option here, automatically create instrument buses. Turn that sucker off if you want to be able to do the thing that Rich is talking about. So make sure this option is turned off, and then you'll be able to do exactly what Rich is talking about there. So yeah, so Inspector is actually incredibly powerful and useful. But yeah, Rich is exactly right. So definitely give that a careful read. Take a screenshot if necessary, if you would prefer to do that rather than going and watching my video. If you're the kind of person that much prefers to read instructions and follow those, take a screenshot of Rich's comments here and save it. That would be my opinion. And then you can follow those to your heart's content. And we lost a few people in the process of me showing that. We went from 23 down to 18. So that's a little disappointing. But that's okay. Excuse me. That's okay. I don't mind. Lowen says, I just started using the inspector after learning to use Logic Pro, and they have that feature. Yes, Logic Pro has an inspector. Most DAWs have something similar to that. There's one in Pro Tools. There's one in Cubase. There's one in Ableton. They're all a little bit different. They all kind of do a different thing. But yeah, pretty much every DAW has an inspector, because you need to be able to set clip or event and track and or channel settings kind of individually. And the easiest way to do that from a workflow perspective is to have an inspector, which is why pretty much every DAW has exactly the same feature. And I used to use Logic way back in the day, before it was even called Logic. Back in the day when a company called eMagic developed it, and it was available on PC and Mac, and then Apple even, begins with A, Apple basically swept in, and they acquired eMagic way back in, oh my gosh, must be 1998 or 1999, one of those. And they acquired eMagic. They basically, eMagic made two programs. They made one called Creator, which is like music production, and then they also created something called Notator, which was kind of like a notation package, not too dissimilar to our Notion program. Fairly similar. And eMagic were basically at that point where they were going to actually merge those two programs together. And just when they got to that point of merging Creator and Notator into one glorious program, which would have been awesome, Apple came in and acquired eMagic. And when they did that, they discontinued Notator altogether. They chucked that in the scrap heap of software history. And then they renamed Creator to Logic. And it wasn't even called Logic Pro. It didn't become Logic Pro until, I think, version 9 or version 10. And then it became Logic Pro. But yeah. And actually, I quite liked it when it was eMagic and it was PC. It was pretty good. And then, of course, they went to Mac, and I'm not really a Mac guy at all. And certainly back then, Macs were not maybe as good as they are now. They were pretty lame. And so I went back to Cubase, which is where I started. I started on Cubase in 1989. With it actually wasn't called Cubase. It was called Pro 24, made by the same company, called Pro 24. and then Cubase kind of came just after it, and I used Cubase all the way through pretty much until 2013, and that's when I switched to Studio One, and now I work for PreSonus. Who'd have thought that? We've got 15 minutes left, and we have basically dropped from 24 people down to 14. Yay! Lowen says, I prefer to use Sample 1 to do all my drums separately. You can certainly do it that way. I like Impact because you can basically tap in your rhythm that you want, kind of like I just did. You can't do that with Sample 1. But yeah, still, Sample 1 is definitely one way to do it. There's other programs out there like Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer. We've talked about those. And then there's virtual drummers from UJam that are pretty good, well worth getting into. John Hawk is here. Hello, John. Welcome. We are about 15 minutes away from wrapping up this show. So if anybody else has any more Studio One questions, get them in the chat. Don't forget to do what Ben did and Dave did, which is start by typing at Jonny Lipsham Studios. When you do that, that highlights my name in red, and I can separate your questions from the general chit-chat. General chit-chat is good. Don't have a problem with it. But if you don't start the question with that, then it's maybe a little easy for me to miss your question. I don't want to miss people's questions. Ben says, so much good info. Thank you all. Ben, you are most welcome. You are most welcome. That's what this channel is here for. I have a bunch of tutorial videos, some of them dating back to Studio One version 2 and version 3. So basically like 10 years worth of tutorial videos, and I have more coming. More videos are coming this year. It's going to be very exciting this year, for sure. So I am very excited to unveil those videos to you. Some of them are already in the can, shot and edited and done and dusted already, but they will not go live yet for a little while because I have a schedule for which I do my video releases. And so, although the videos are in the can, I will not be unveiling them just yet. But make sure you are subscribed to my channel and make sure you hit that notification bell. And by doing so, you will not miss any of the new videos that are coming out. It's going to be very, very cool. And like I said, Billy Morgan has the after show. Well, it's not really an after show on this particular occasion. It's a Studio One meetup that immediately follows this show. So if you want to continue the conversations about Studio One and about PreSonus products in general, then that is the place to do that. And Billy Morgan will be hosting that. And he normally hosts it for an hour or two. So if you've got an hour or two to spare on a Sunday night, then that is definitely the time to do it. Otherwise, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I think we may just have to end the show a little early tonight. Not because I want to end the show early, it's just because there are no more questions. So with that being said, there are Logic came on my $20 2011 Mac Mini. Oh, okay. 2011. Yeah, Logic's been around for a lot longer than that, though. Yeah, GarageBand was originally an Apple product. And then when they started developing Logic, they decided that GarageBand should basically be built on the same code base as Logic. And so essentially GarageBand is the free version of Logic, basically. And they are essentially the same product. You wouldn't know it, but they are written on the same code base. They just look maybe a little bit different. in some respects, but they are designed, basically GarageBand is designed to lead you through to becoming a Logic subscriber, basically. All right, so it looks like we are finishing 10 minutes early tonight. So a little bit of a shorter show. Hopefully this is not going to be a trend, because we are definitely a little low on numbers tonight. Now, I am aware that it is Easter coming up, and that actually there's a whole bunch of schools, certainly over here in the UK, schools have now gone on Easter break. So my kids are home for Easter for 2 weeks. And I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the case for a lot of different schools around the world, that they are going to be on Easter break as well. So given that, I suppose some families may have just gone off on vacation and things like that. So that might explain that. John says I had Logic on PC back in 2004. Yeah, that would be about the time that round about the time, 2004, 2005, maybe, that it went over to Mac exclusively. And yes, there's a lot of dangerous weather in the United States at the moment. There's been a major severe weather outbreak for certainly the last week, maybe 10 days, including tornadoes. There have been a couple of EF5 tornadoes. There's been at least one EF4 that I know about, and last night there were a couple of EF3s that have done a lot of damage, and some people have sadly lost their lives, as well as their property, over the course of the last 7 or 8 days. It's it's pretty dangerous out there at the moment. So if you are in any of the areas where there are severe weather warnings and tornado watches and even tornado warnings, make sure you have easy access to your safe places, and storm cellars, that kind of thing. Make sure you are quickly and easily able to get access to those. Keep an eye on weather warnings, weather alerts, stay weather aware, and stay safe. And I guess we will call it a night there, and I will see you all on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, where we will talk all things songwriting, music theory, composing, arranging, that kind of thing. So if you've got questions about that, then bring those along with you to the show, same time, 6 p.m. Central. I guess we're going to wrap up early tonight. So I will see you on Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Good night.